The auctioneer's gavel cracked like a gunshot. Benjamin Hayes watched the Comanche woman stumble onto the platform, chains scraping wood, eyes burning with defiance even as men laughed and bid. His hand shook not from whiskey, but from memory. $1 silver, that's all he had left. That's all she was worth to them. But when their eyes met across that crowd of vultures, he saw something that terrified him. More than any battlefield, she saw straight through to the blood on his soul. Before we begin, please subscribe and hit that notification bell. Stay with us until the very end of this journey and comment below what city you're watching from so we can see how far this story travels. Now, let's begin. Benjamin Hayes had come to Silver Creek to sell a saddle, not to save anyone, especially not himself. The town square stank of horse manure and desperation. Farmers hawked bruised vegetables. A blacksmith's hammer rang against iron. Benjamin kept his head down, moving through the crowd like a ghost. 3 years out of uniform, and he still couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. "Step right up, gentlemen." The voice stopped him cold. Benjamin turned. A platform had been erected near the general store, rough pine boards hammered together overnight. A small crowd gathered, mostly ranchers, a few drifters. Judge Morrison stood near the front, pretending to examine his pocket watch. "We got merchandise today that don't come around often." Benjamin's gut twisted. He knew that tone, had heard it at slave auctions before the war, at livestock sales after, the tone men used when selling things that breathed. He should have walked away. Lot 17, but his boots had stopped obeying him. Comanche female, age approximately 22. The crowd shifted and Benjamin saw her. 2 ranch hands dragged her onto the platform. She fought every step, not wildly calculated efficient. When the first man grabbed her arm, she twisted and nearly broke his grip. The second one shoved her hard enough that she stumbled, but she didn't fall. Wouldn't give them that. Her dress was torn cavalry-issue burlap, the kind they gave reservation Indians. Feet bare, bleeding from the walk into town, hair matted with dust and sweat, but she stood there like a queen surveying her enemies. The auctioneer, a fat man named Sykes, grabbed her shoulder to turn her toward the crowd. She spun and spat in his face. The crowd exploded with laughter and jeers. Sykes wiped his cheek face purple with rage. He raised his hand to strike her. "Wouldn't do that." Judge Morrison's voice cut through the noise. "Damage the merchandise and you'll lower the bids." More laughter. The woman's eyes swept across them all. Benjamin watched her catalog each face, memorizing, planning revenge she'd probably never get to take. Then her gaze landed on him. For a moment that stretched like taffy. They stared at each other. Benjamin saw the hatred there, expected it, deserved it. But underneath, he saw something else. Recognition. Not of him specifically, but of what he was. Another killer. "Bidding starts at $2, Sykes announced, recovered now and grinning. "This one's got fight in her, boys. Think what you could do with that spirit once you break it proper." Benjamin's stomach heaved. Around him, men elbowed each other and laughed. Someone made a comment about breeding stock. Someone else offered $3. The woman never flinched, never looked away from Benjamin. His hand moved to his pocket, found the silver dollar there, last money from selling his last horse. He'd planned to buy enough whiskey to drown the dreams, the ones where he still smelled burning lodges and heard children screaming. $4, a voice Benjamin recognized. Ned Crawley, who owned half the county and wanted the other half. "And I'll go to 10 if I need to." The woman's jaw tightened. For the first time, Benjamin saw fear crack through her defiance. Crawley had a reputation, hired hands who worked his ranch, either left crippled or didn't leave at all. 3 years ago, a Mexican family who'd been sharecropping his land disappeared. The sheriff ruled it an accident. Everyone knew better. $4 going once. Sykes raised his gavel. Benjamin's fingers closed around the coin. $4 going twice. He thought of Sarah. 3 years in the ground, but he still heard her voice sometimes. There's always a choice, Ben. Always. $4, $1. His voice wasn't loud, but the crowd went silent anyway. Heads turned. Benjamin pushed through the press of bodies, pulling out the silver dollar, held it up where everyone could see. Sykes squinted at him. That's not even half the current bid, Hayes. You drunk, stone sober. Benjamin stepped to the front. I'm offering $1 for her freedom. The word landed like a boulder in a pond. Ripples spread through the crowd, confusion, then anger. Her freedom! Sykes laughed, but sweat beaded his forehead. This ain't a church charity, Hayes. We got serious bidders. $5. Crawley shoved forward, face red. And another $5 if this fool tries to outbid me. Benjamin ignored him, kept his eyes on Sykes. Judge Morrison standing right there. He nodded toward the portly man who'd suddenly developed intense interest in his shoes. And the judge knows about the Treaty of '67, the one that makes selling prisoners of war as slaves a federal crime. Morrison's face went from pink to white. You threatening us, Hayes? Sykes' voice shook slightly. No, sir. I'm offering you a solution. You take my dollar, let her go with me, and nobody has to wire Fort Richardson asking about jurisdictions and treaties and whether the U.S. Army might be interested in how Silver Creek's been interpreting federal law. The silence stretched. Benjamin could hear his own heartbeat, could feel the woman's eyes still locked on him. Crawley broke it. This is horseshit. I made a legitimate bid on legitimate merchandise. On stolen property, Benjamin said quietly. Because that's what she is under federal law. Not merchandise, not livestock. Stolen property that the government wants back. He was bluffing, mostly. The treaties were real, but enforcement was spotty at best. Still, the threat of federal attention made men nervous, made them stupid. Judge Morrison cleared his throat. The veteran raises valid legal concerns. He wouldn't meet anyone's eyes. Perhaps we should defer to caution in this matter. Sykes looked from the judge to Benjamin to the crowd of angry ranchers. Benjamin could see him calculating. $1 was better than federal charges, barely. $1. Sykes slammed his gavel down fast like it burned. Sold to Benjamin Hayes for $1 goddamn dollar. Now get her off my platform before I change my mind. Benjamin moved before anyone could object. The ranch hands stepped back quick. Suddenly nobody wanted to touch the woman now that she belonged to the crazy veteran. He climbed the platform steps slowly. She watched him come coiled tight, ready to fight or run. I'm cutting these ropes, Benjamin said in English, not knowing if she understood. Then we're walking out of here, slow and calm. She didn't respond, didn't blink. He pulled his knife. The crowd murmured. Benjamin sawed through the ropes, binding her wrists, expecting her to bolt or attack the moment she was free. Instead, she rubbed her wrists and stared at him with those burning eyes, waiting. Can you walk? He asked. Nothing. Benjamin shrugged off his coat, the only decent one he owned, the one Sarah had mended a dozen times, held it out. The woman looked at it like it might bite. Then, moving with careful deliberation, she took it and wrapped it around her shoulders. Let's go, Benjamin said. They walked through that crowd, and Benjamin felt every eye on them, felt the hatred rolling off the men in waves. Ned Crawley spat at his feet. Someone else called him a traitor. A few made threats too quiet for Benjamin to catch, but loud enough to promise future trouble. The woman walked beside him, head high, limping slightly but refusing to show weakness. His horse was tied outside the general store. When they reached it, she stopped. You know how to ride? Benjamin asked. No answer. Right. He mounted up, then extended his hand down to her. I know you don't trust me. Wouldn't blame you, but Crawley's going to come after you the second we're out of sight. So you got two choices. Come with me and maybe stay alive, or stay here and definitely don't. Your call. She studied his hand, studied his face. Benjamin waited, giving her the choice. Finally, she gripped his forearm and pulled herself up behind him with surprising strength. Her hands settled carefully on his shoulders, ready to choke him, if needed, he figured. They rode out of Silver Creek at a walk. Benjamin felt the weight of watching eyes until they cleared the last building. Then he kicked the horse to a canter, The land opened up rolling hills dotted with mesquite and scrub oak. The sun hammered down from a cloudless sky. Behind him, the woman's breathing stayed steady, controlled. Soldiers breathing. They'd been riding maybe 30 minutes when Benjamin heard the hoofbeats behind them. He twisted in the saddle. 3 riders, maybe a quarter-mile back. Even at this distance, he recognized Crawley's bay stallion. "Damn it," Benjamin muttered. The woman's hands tightened on his shoulders. She'd heard them too. Benjamin scanned the landscape. The main road was too exposed, but to the east a line of cottonwoods marked a creek bed. If they could reach it before Crawley closed the distance. He urged his horse off the road. The animal protested the ground here was rougher, pocked with prairie dog holes. But Benjamin pushed harder, and the horse obeyed. Behind them, the riders adjusted course. The woman leaned forward and spoke in his ear, first time she'd made a sound. "They will catch us." Her English was accented but clear. "Maybe," Benjamin said, "but not easily." They crashed into the cottonwoods, and Benjamin pulled up hard. The woman slid off the horse before he'd fully stopped. She moved into the underbrush like smoke finding cover with practiced ease. Benjamin dismounted and pulled his Winchester from its scabbard, checked the load. 6 rounds, against 3 men. The woman appeared at his elbow, silent as death. She pointed to his belt. Benjamin looked down at his knife, looked at her. Slowly he pulled it free and reversed it, offering her the handle. She took it without hesitation, tested the weight, nodded once. The hoofbeats got louder. Crawley's voice carried through the trees. "Don't care if you have to shoot the horse. I want that squaw back here." Benjamin positioned himself behind a thick cottonwood trunk. The woman melted into the shadows 10 feet to his left. He could barely see her, and he knew where to look. 3 riders broke through the tree line, Crawley in front, 2 ranch hands flanking him, all armed. Benjamin stepped out. "That's far enough, Ned." Crawley's horse reared slightly. The rancher controlled it, eyes locked on Benjamin. "Step aside, Hayes. This doesn't concern you anymore." "Sure it does. I bought her fair and legal. With $1 goddamn and a bunch of legal threats." Crawley's face was purple. "That wasn't a legitimate purchase, and you know it. Judge Morrison seemed to think it was." "Morrison's a coward," Crawley spat, "and you're a fool. Now step aside or I'll drop you where you stand." Benjamin raised his Winchester slightly. "You could try." For a long moment nobody moved. The only sound was wind through the cottonwood leaves and the nervous shifting of horses. Then one of the ranch hands spoke up. "Mr. Crawley, maybe we should—" "Shut up." Crawley never took his eyes off Benjamin. "I've got 6 men at my ranch. 6 men who'll ride out here if I don't come back. You really want that fight, Hayes?" "No," Benjamin said honestly, "but I'll have it if I need to." Crawley's hand drifted toward his pistol. The woman's voice cut through the tension cold and clear. "The one on the left has a loose saddle girth. The one on the right carries his gun too high on his hip. And you," she spoke directly to Crawley now, "you favor your left leg. Old wound that never healed right." All 3 men froze. She'd been watching them, studying them, and now she'd let them know she'd found their weaknesses. "If you fight," she continued, "I will kill you first. While you are still trying to draw your gun, I will put this knife through your throat. The soldier will shoot the other 2, and your 6 men at your ranch will ride out here tomorrow to find you rotting." The certainty in her voice was chilling. This wasn't a threat. It was a simple statement of fact. Crawley's hand moved away from his pistol. "This isn't over," he said. "Yes," the woman said, "it is." She stepped fully into view then, and Benjamin saw what Crawley saw, not a victim, not merchandise, but a warrior. Someone who'd survived worse than 3 cowards on horseback. Crawley wheeled his horse around. His ranch hands followed immediately, relieved. Benjamin and the woman stood there listening to the hoofbeats fade. "That was close," Benjamin said finally. No." She handed him back his knife. "That was easy. The hard part comes later, when he brings more men." "He won't." "You are certain?" "No," Benjamin admitted. "But he won't make a move for a few days, at least." Needs time to convince himself he's not afraid of you. The corner of her mouth might have twitched, might have been a smile. He should be afraid. They rode on in silence after that. The land rose and fell in gentle waves. The sun climbed toward noon, then began its descent. The woman never complained, never asked to stop, though Benjamin could feel her exhaustion in the way she leaned heavier against his back. Finally, as the sun touched the horizon, they crested a hill and Benjamin's ranch spread out below. 20 acres of struggling land, a cabin that needed repairs, a barn that leaned slightly east, an overgrown garden choked with weeds. Not much, Benjamin said, but it's safe. Nobody comes out here. The woman was silent for a long moment. Then someone lived here before, someone who loved it. Benjamin's throat tightened. My wife, Sarah. She is gone. 2 winters ago. Fever took her while I was in town. He dismounted, helped the woman down. Come on, let's get you inside. But she didn't move toward the cabin. Instead, she walked to the garden, knelt in the dirt, touched the dried stalks of dead plants. These are the 3 sisters, she said quietly. Corn, beans, squash. My people plant them together. They help each other grow. Benjamin moved to stand beside her. Sarah learned it from a Mexican family that used to farm near here. She said, he stopped. What did she say? She said anything worth growing needs help, that nothing survives alone. The woman stood brushing dirt from her hands. For the first time since he'd seen her on that platform, her expression softened slightly. Your wife was wise, she said. She was better than me, Benjamin said. Better than I deserved. They went inside. The cabin was exactly as he'd left it, sparse, clean, lonely. The woman moved through it slowly, touching things. The table, the stove, a cup hanging on a nail. Then she stopped at the door to Sarah's room. Benjamin had kept it closed for 2 years. What is in there? She asked. Nothing, just her things. I haven't. The woman opened the door. Sarah's room looked frozen in time. The bed was made with the quilt her mother had sewn. Her brush still sat on the small table, and on the windowsill, a journal. The woman picked it up, opened it carefully, scanned the pages. Then she looked at Benjamin. She wrote about the garden, she said, about learning from the Mexican family, about how the 3 sisters must be planted at the right time in the right way. She paused. She wrote that she was trying to learn because she wanted to understand the land better, to understand the people who knew how to live here. Benjamin couldn't speak. Your wife, the woman said carefully, was trying to see us as people. She did see you as people, Benjamin managed. He stopped. She hated what the army was doing, what I was part of. We fought about it a lot. But you did it anyway. Yes. The woman set down the journal. I will sleep here in her room. Is that acceptable? Benjamin nodded, not trusting his voice. And tomorrow, she continued, you will tell me your name, and I will tell you mine, and you will tell me everything about the war, everything you did. All right. I will know if you lie. I won't lie. She studied him for a long moment. Then, my name is Nayeli, daughter of Chief Nokona the Wanderer. The name hit Benjamin like a fist. Nokona, the war chief whose band they'd destroyed at Red River, the man whose body Benjamin had seen lying in the ruins of a burning lodge. His face must have shown something because Nayeli's eyes narrowed. You know that name, she said. Benjamin couldn't breathe. Yes, how? And there it was, the moment of truth. He could lie, could pretend, could buy himself one more night before she hated him completely. Or he could tell her now and face the consequences. Benjamin chose truth. 3 years ago, he said quietly, I was part of a cavalry unit that attacked a Comanche village near Red River. Our commander was Lieutenant Marcus Blackwood. Our orders were to clear the territory of hostiles. The words felt like rocks in his mouth. We didn't know your father's name, didn't know who we were attacking. We just followed orders. Nayeli had gone completely still. There was a fire, Benjamin continued. The lodges burned, people died. He stopped. I tried not to kill anyone, tried to but in the chaos, in the smoke, my father died in that raid, Nayeli said. Her voice was hollow. My mother died 2 years before. My brother Aote was 8 years old. He was hiding under a dead horse with a broken arm. Benjamin felt the world tilt. What did you say? My brother, Aote. It means tree in your language. He had a broken arm and a scar. She touched her left eyebrow. Here, from when he fell from a horse as a child. Benjamin sat down hard on the floor. He couldn't feel his legs. No, he whispered. No, that's not. You know him. Nayeli's voice was deadly quiet. You know my brother. There was a boy, Benjamin said, under a dead horse, broken arm. I pulled him out, gave him water, wrapped his arm as best I could. Then Lieutenant Blackwood ordered all prisoners loaded onto wagons. They were heading to Fort Sill, the reservation. Nayeli swayed slightly. Benjamin reached out instinctively, but she jerked away. You were there, she said. You destroyed my village. You killed my people. You took my brother. I didn't take him. I tried to help. You were there. Her voice cracked like thunder. You wore the uniform. You rode with the soldiers. You are one of them. Yes, Benjamin said. I am. She turned away from him, shoulders shaking. Benjamin couldn't tell if it was rage or grief or both. Why? She asked finally. Why did you buy me? Was it guilt? Pity? I don't know, Benjamin said honestly. Maybe both. Maybe I just couldn't watch it happen again, couldn't watch people being sold like animals. But you could destroy an entire village. I thought... Benjamin stopped. I thought I was following orders, thought I was doing my duty. I thought... His voice broke. I thought a lot of things that turned out to be lies. Nayeli spun to face him. Her eyes were full of tears and fire. I hate you, she said. I hate everything you represent. I hate that you live while my father is dead, while my brother is lost somewhere, probably dying on some reservation. I know, Benjamin said. I hate me too. That stopped her. They stood there in the dying light, two broken people staring across an unbridgeable chasm of blood and loss. Finally, Nayeli spoke again, and her voice was different now, smaller. You saved him. What? My brother? You could have left him under that horse, could have let him die, but you pulled him out, you gave him water, you wrapped his arm. Her voice shook. You kept him alive. Benjamin couldn't respond. I have been searching for 2 years, Nayeli continued. 2 years of not knowing if he was alive or dead. And you, she wiped her eyes roughly, you know where they took him. You saw him loaded onto those wagons. Fort Sill, Benjamin said. But that was 3 years ago. I don't know if he is alive. Nayeli said it with absolute certainty. I would know if he was dead. I would feel it. Then we'll find him, Benjamin said. I'll help you. I owe you that much. You owe me everything. But there was less venom in it now, just exhaustion. I will stay here, not because I forgive you, not because I trust you, but because you can help me find Aote, and because, she looked around the cabin, because I have nowhere else to go. That's enough, Benjamin said. Nayeli moved back to Sarah's room, stopped in the doorway. Tomorrow you will tell me everything. Every detail of that day, every person who died, if you remember, everything. I will. And Benjamin, she looked at him one last time. Thank you for the $1, for stopping them from... She didn't finish. You're welcome, Nayeli. She closed the door. Benjamin stood alone in his cabin listening to the silence. Then he grabbed a blanket and headed to the barn. He'd sleep there tonight. Give her space. Give her safety. The barn smelled of old hay and leather and loneliness. Benjamin lay in the hayloft, staring at the stars through gaps in the roof. 3 years ago, he'd pulled a boy from under a dead horse. Had no idea that boy had a sister. Had no idea that sister would end up sleeping in his dead wife's bed, hating him for good reason. Sarah used to say that God worked in mysterious ways. Benjamin had never believed it, but lying there in the dark, listening to the night sounds, He wondered if maybe she'd been right. He'd saved one child that day and thought it was enough. Thought it meant something. Now that child's sister was here, and Benjamin realized salvation wasn't a single act. It was a daily choice, a constant struggle, something you earned through years of trying to be better than you were. In the cabin he heard movement. Nayeli probably unable to sleep either. Two haunted souls under the same sky, bound together by violence and loss, and $1 silver. Tomorrow would bring pain, confession, details that would make her hate him more. But tomorrow would also bring the first step toward finding her brother, toward making at least one thing right. Benjamin closed his eyes, saw the boy's face again. The scar above his eye, the leather pouch clutched in small fists. Ayote, Tree, Nayeli's brother, the child Benjamin had saved, without knowing he'd one day have to face the sister and confess that while he'd saved one life, he'd helped destroy hundreds of others. The weight of it pressed down on him like a physical thing. But for the first time in 3 years, Benjamin didn't reach for whiskey to drown it, didn't run from it. He let himself feel it all, because Nayeli deserved that much, deserved someone who'd face the truth instead of hiding from it. Morning would come, and with it reckoning. But for now, in the darkness, 2 survivors rested under the same roof, not forgiven, not friends, but no longer alone. And sometimes Benjamin thought, as sleep finally took him, that was enough to start with. Just enough. Dawn came cold and gray. Benjamin woke to the sound of movement in the yard, wood splitting, the sharp crack echoing across the empty land. He climbed down from the hayloft bones, protesting, and stepped outside. Nayeli stood by the woodpile, Sarah's old axe in her hands. She'd already split half a cord, the pieces stacked with military precision. Her movements were efficient, controlled. Each swing released something, rage, grief, energy that had nowhere else to go. Benjamin watched her for a moment. She knew he was there, but didn't acknowledge him, just kept swinging. "There's coffee," he said finally, "if you want some." The axe came down hard, splitting a log clean through. "I do not drink coffee." "Tea then," Sarah kept. "I will drink water." Benjamin nodded and went inside, put the kettle on anyway. When he came back out with 2 cups coffee for him, water for her, she'd stopped chopping, stood with the axe resting against her leg, staring at the dead garden. He set her cup on the porch railing, waited. "Tell me about the day," she said without turning around. "The day you destroyed my village." Benjamin's coffee turned to ash in his mouth. Now. He sat down on the porch steps. Nayeli stayed standing, her back to him. Maybe that made it easier. Maybe she couldn't look at him while he said it. "It was early morning," Benjamin began. "September, 3 years ago. We'd been tracking your father's band for 2 weeks. Lieutenant Blackwood was convinced—" He stopped. "He said the village was harboring warriors who'd raided settlements. Said we had orders to neutralize the threat." "Neutralize." Nayeli's voice was flat. "That is what you call it. That's what they called it. I called it—" Benjamin set down his cup. "I didn't know what to call it. I just followed orders." "How many soldiers? 40, maybe 45? And how many of my people?" Benjamin closed his eyes. "I don't know. 100. The village was bigger than we expected. More lodges, more families, more targets." "Yes." The silence stretched. A hawk cried somewhere overhead. The wind moved through the dried corn stalks. "We attacked at dawn," Benjamin continued. "Blackwood said it would minimize resistance, catch them sleeping." His hands trembled. "There were children playing near the creek. I remember thinking they looked so normal, like any children, laughing, splashing each other." Nayeli's shoulders went rigid. "Then Blackwood gave the order and we rode in. The shooting started. People ran. Some fought back. Of course, they fought back. We were attacking their homes, but most just ran." Benjamin's voice cracked. "The lodges caught fire. I don't know if it was intentional or if someone knocked over a cooking fire, but it spread fast. The smoke was so thick you couldn't see, couldn't breathe." "Where was my father?" "I don't know. I didn't know who he was then. I saw a man older wearing a chief's breastplate trying to get people to the tree line. He had a rifle, but he wasn't shooting, just directing people to safety. Blackwood shot him from horseback. Nayeli made a sound like she'd been struck. "I'm sorry," Benjamin said uselessly. "Do not apologize. Just tell me." After the chief fell, the resistance collapsed. People scattered. We were supposed to secure the area, round up prisoners. But Blackwood, Benjamin stopped. He ordered us to burn everything, every lodge, every food store. He said we needed to make sure they couldn't regroup. "You mean he wanted us to starve?" "Yes." "And did you burn everything?" Benjamin wanted to lie, wanted to tell her he'd refused, that he'd stood up to Blackwood, that he'd been brave, but he'd promised her truth. "I helped," he said quietly. "I set fire to 3 lodges. I checked them first, made sure they were empty, but I still burned them. I still destroyed everything those families had." Nayeli finally turned to face him. Her eyes were dry, but devastated. "And my brother, I found him in the chaos. He was hiding under a dead horse near the creek. His arm was bent wrong, and he was crying. Not loud, this quiet, desperate crying, like he was trying not to be heard." Benjamin's throat closed. "I almost didn't see him, almost rode past, but my horse shied and I looked down and there he was." "What did you do?" "I dismounted, pulled him out. He fought me, at first tried to bite me, but his arm was broken and he was weak. I gave him water from my canteen, used bandages from my pack to wrap his arm." "Why?" Nayeli asked. "Why help him when you had just destroyed everything else?" "Because he was a child," Benjamin said simply. "Because in that moment, covered in ash and blood and terror, he looked like every scared kid I'd ever seen, and I couldn't—" He stopped. "I couldn't do nothing." "But you could burn his home." "Yes, I could burn his home and kill his people and follow orders that I knew were wrong, but I couldn't leave him there to die." Benjamin looked up at her. "I know that doesn't make sense. I know it doesn't make it right, but it's the truth." Nayeli moved to the porch, picked up her water, drank slowly. "What happened to him after?" Lieutenant Blackwood came over, saw what I was doing. He was angry, said we weren't there to play nursemaid to savages. Benjamin felt the old anger rise. "I told him the boy was a prisoner of war and was entitled to medical treatment under military code." Blackwood laughed, said code didn't apply to Indians. "But you did it anyway." "I did it anyway," finished wrapping his arm. Then other soldiers started bringing in prisoners, mostly women and children, a few old men. They loaded everyone onto wagons. "Your brother fought them, tried to run, but his arm—" Benjamin stopped. "They tied him down. He was screaming something in Comanche, over and over." "What was he screaming?" "I don't know. I didn't speak the language." "He was calling for me," Nayeli said quietly. "He was calling for his sister. I had gone to gather medicine plants that morning. When I came back, everything was burning. I searched for him, searched for 2 days, found nothing but bodies and ash." Benjamin couldn't speak. "I thought he was dead," Nayeli continued. "For 6 months I thought my baby brother was dead. Then I heard rumors, stories about children taken to the reservation, so I went to Fort Sill." Her voice turned bitter. "They would not let me see the children. Said I needed papers, permission. I had nothing, so they turned me away." "You've been searching for him ever since?" "For 2 years, working, begging, stealing when I had to, following every rumor, every story, and then I got captured by raiders who sold me to your people." She looked at him. "To you." "To me," Benjamin agreed, "for $1. They sat in silence for a while. The sun climbed higher but gave no warmth. Finally, Nayeli spoke again. "The boy you saved, did he have anything with him? Anything he was holding?" Benjamin thought back. "A leather pouch. He wouldn't let go of it. Even when they tied him to the wagon, he kept it clutched in his good hand." Nayeli's breath caught. "What color?" "Brown, dark brown with blue beading." "Why?" "That was our mother's medicine bag. She died when Ayote was 5. He carried it everywhere after." Nayeli's voice shook. "If he still has it, if he kept it all this time—" Then he's alive, Benjamin finished, and he remembers. We have to find him. We will. You promise. Benjamin looked at her directly. I promise. I'll help you find your brother or die trying. It's the least. He stopped. It's what I should have done 3 years ago. Nayeli studied him for a long moment. Then she nodded once. I believe you. It wasn't forgiveness, wasn't even close. But it was something. Benjamin stood. Fort Sill is a 3-week ride from here. Maybe more, depending on weather. We'll need supplies, horses, money. I have no money. I've got some saved, not much, but enough to get us there. He paused. There's a problem, though. What problem? Blackwood, my old commanding officer. Last I heard he was stationed at Fort Richardson. That's between here and Fort Sill. Nayeli's eyes went cold. The man who ordered the attack. Yes, and if he finds out I'm traveling with a Comanche woman, if he connects you to Nakona's band, Benjamin didn't finish, didn't need to. He will kill me. He'll try. Then we avoid him. Fort Richardson sits on the main route to Fort Sill. There's no easy way around it without adding 2 weeks to the journey. Nayeli thought about this. Can we pass through at night? Maybe, but it's risky. Benjamin rubbed his face. We need more information first. I know a man in town, Reverend Walker. He keeps track of army movements, helps people who need to navigate around certain difficulties. You trust him with my life. But do you trust him with mine? That was the real question. Benjamin thought about Reverend Walker, the quiet man who'd buried Sarah, who'd never asked questions about Benjamin's nightmares, who'd helped more than one desperate soul escape bad situations. Yes, Benjamin said finally, I trust him with your life. Nayeli nodded. Then we go to town, today. You sure you want to risk that Crawley might? Crawley is a coward. He will not move against us in daylight with witnesses. She picked up the axe again. Besides, I am tired of hiding, tired of being afraid. We go to town, we get information, we start moving toward my brother. Agreed. Benjamin found himself almost smiling. Agreed. They rode out an hour later. Nayeli wore Sarah's old riding dress. It fit well enough, and Benjamin's spare hat pulled low. To anyone looking casually, she might pass for a Mexican ranch hand or a half-breed settler. Might. Silver Creek looked different in daylight, less threatening. Just another dusty town trying not to blow away. They hitched the horse outside the church, and Benjamin knocked on the rectory door. Reverend Walker answered, a thin man in his 50s with kind eyes and ink-stained fingers. He looked at Benjamin, then at Nayeli, and his expression didn't change. Benjamin Hayes, he said calmly. It's been a while, Reverend. And you've brought a friend. This is Nayeli. She needs help. We need help. Walker stepped back. Come in, quickly. The rectory was cramped but clean. Books everywhere. Walker gestured for them to sit at a small table while he put on coffee. Neither Benjamin nor Nayeli touched it when he served it. I heard about the auction yesterday, Walker said, sitting down across from them. Heard you made quite a scene. News travels fast. In small towns, it's the only thing that moves fast. Walker looked at Nayeli. You're Comanche. It wasn't a question, but she answered anyway. Yes. And you're looking for someone. Nayeli glanced at Benjamin. He nodded. She turned back to Walker. My brother. He was taken 3 years ago in a raid, sent to Fort Sill Reservation. His name is Aote. He would be 11 years old now. Walker's expression softened. That's a long time to search. It is all I have left. I understand. Walker stood and moved to a filing cabinet in the corner, pulled out a ledger. I keep records, births, deaths, movements, some official, some not. He flipped through pages. Fort Sill has several hundred people. The army doesn't keep good records of who they take there, but the missionaries do. You have contact with them, Benjamin asked. I have contact with Father Miguel at San Antonio Mission. He has contact with Sisters of Mercy at Fort Sill. They run a school there. Walker found what he was looking for. Here, 3 years ago, autumn, 17 children brought in from a Comanche village raid. ages 5 to 14. Nayeli leaned forward. Does it list names? No, just numbers. Walker looked apologetic. The Army strips Indian names, gives them Christian names. Then how do we find him? The sisters keep their own records. They document physical descriptions, approximate ages, any identifying marks. Walker closed the ledger. If your brother is there, they'll know him. Can you contact them? Benjamin asked. I can send a telegram to Father Miguel. He can relay to Fort Sill, but Walker hesitated. It will take time, a week, maybe 2, and there's no guarantee they'll respond. We do not have 2 weeks, Nayeli said. Every day I wait is another day he suffers. Then you ride to Fort Sill yourselves. Walker looked at Benjamin. But you know what that means. You know who's stationed between here and there. Blackwood. Lieutenant Blackwood is now Captain Blackwood, and he's worse than before. There's talk. Walker stopped. There's talk that he's been taking payments from ranchers to clear out remaining Indian settlements. Unofficial raids, no records, no prisoners. Benjamin felt sick. He's murdering them. He's calling it peacekeeping, but yes, murder is accurate. Nayeli's hands clenched. This is the man who killed my father. And who will kill you if he catches you, Walker said bluntly, which is why you cannot go through Fort Richardson. You have to go around. That adds 2 weeks. Better 2 weeks late than dead. Walker pulled out a map. There's a route through the hill country. Harder terrain, fewer settlements, but also fewer patrols. You'd avoid Richardson completely. Benjamin studied the map. We'd need extra supplies, more ammunition, cold weather gear. It'll be November before we get there. I can help with supplies. Walker looked at both of them. But I need to know you understand the risk. If Blackwood finds out you're helping a Comanche woman escape custody, and yes, that's how he'll frame it, you'll be arrested as a traitor or shot on sight. I understand. Do you? Walker's voice was sharp now. Because you've been running from your past for 3 years, Benjamin, ever since Sarah died, and I've let you run because sometimes that's what people need. But this, he gestured at Nayeli, this isn't running. This is choosing a side, and once you choose, there's no going back. Benjamin met the Reverend's eyes. I chose yesterday when I offered that $1. And you? Walker turned to Nayeli. You understand what you're asking of him. He'll be branded a criminal, an outlaw. He'll lose what little he has left. I understand, Nayeli said, and I will not force him. If he wants to stop now, I will go alone. You'll die alone. Then I will die searching for my brother. That is more than I have lived for in 2 years. Walker sighed, looked between them. You're both fools. Probably, Benjamin agreed. Definitely. But Walker was already moving, pulling supplies from cabinets. I'll give you enough food for 3 weeks. Blankets, medicine, my spare rifle, it's better than that Winchester you're carrying. And money. He pulled out a small leather purse. $30, it's all I have. Reverend, I can't. Yes, you can, because this is God's work, Benjamin. Reuniting a child with his family, righting an old wrong. Walker pressed the purse into Benjamin's hand. Sarah would want you to do this. You know she would. Benjamin's vision blurred. Thank you. Don't thank me, just succeed. Walker turned to Nayeli. And you be careful. Not everyone who claims to help actually helps. Trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. I will. They spent another hour at the rectory going over the route, discussing timing and supplies. Walker marked safe houses on the map, farmers and missionaries who could be trusted. He also marked dangers, known patrol routes, hostile settlements, areas where bandits operated. Finally, as afternoon shadows lengthened, they prepared to leave. Walker walked them to the door. One more thing, he said. Fort Sill is run by Quakers now, the Friends Committee. They're different from regular army, more humane, but they're also strict about protocol. You'll need proper documentation to remove a child from their custody. What kind of documentation? Nayeli asked. Proof of relation, sworn statements, ideally a letter from a government official or religious authority. Walker pulled out paper and began writing. I'll give you a letter stating that I've confirmed your identity and your brother's abduction. Father Miguel can add his seal. It might be enough. And if it is not, then you'll need to convince the Quakers that keeping a child from his sister is more harmful than releasing him. Walker finished writing, folded the letter, handed it to Nayeli. They're good people. Appeal to their humanity. Nayeli tucked the letter carefully into her dress. Thank you, Reverend. Good luck, both of you. Walker gripped Benjamin's shoulder. And Benjamin, this thing you're doing, this is what Sarah always hoped you'd find. What's that? A reason to stop running? They rode back to the ranch in comfortable silence. The sun was setting, painting the sky orange and purple. Nayeli watched it with an expression Benjamin couldn't read. In my village, she said suddenly, we had a story about a warrior who betrayed his people, then spent his life trying to earn redemption. He never did. Died alone, still seeking forgiveness that never came. Benjamin's chest tightened. Happy story. The point was not happiness. The point was that some debts cannot be repaid. Some actions cannot be undone. She looked at him. I tell you this not to hurt you, but so you understand. Even if we find my brother, even if we succeed, I may never forgive you. I know, but I will respect you, and perhaps that is enough. Perhaps, Benjamin agreed. They reached the ranch as full dark fell. While Nayeli prepared a cold dinner, neither wanted to risk smoke from the stove. Benjamin checked their supplies. Ammunition, blankets, food stores. They'd need more, but Walker's contribution would help. He was counting bullets when Nayeli appeared in the barn doorway. Benjamin, yeah, the dog. There is a dog here. He looked up. She was holding his old hound Scout, ancient, half-blind, and deeply loyal. Benjamin had forgotten about him in all the chaos. That Scout, he's harmless, mostly deaf, completely useless as a guard dog. But Nayeli was smiling, the first real smile Benjamin had seen. She scratched Scout's ears, and the old dog groaned with pleasure. My brother loved dogs, she said softly. We had 3 in the village. He called them his braves, trained them to follow him everywhere. Scout followed Sarah everywhere. After she died, he just gave up. Sleeps most of the time now. Nayeli carried Scout back to the cabin, set him down gently near the fire. The dog circled once and collapsed with a contented sigh. He will come with us, Nayeli announced. He's too old to travel. He will come with us. Her tone left no room for argument. If we find Aote, he should have a dog, and Scout, she smiled again. Scout has already chosen me. Benjamin looked at the ancient hound, now resting his head on Nayeli's foot. Traitor, he muttered to the dog. That night, Benjamin lay in the hayloft, while Nayeli slept in Sarah's room, and Scout snored near the cabin fire. The old routine had shifted, adapted. They weren't a family, weren't even friends, but they were something. 2 damaged people preparing to journey into danger for a child neither had seen in years. Benjamin thought about the boy under the horse, about Blackwood's cruelty, about all the ways this could go wrong. But he also thought about Nayeli's smile when she held Scout, about the possibility of reuniting her with her brother, about maybe finally doing one thing right. Sleep came easier than it had in months. In the cabin, Nayeli sat at Sarah's table reading by candlelight. The journal lay open in front of her, pages about gardens and hope and trying to understand a land that resisted easy answers. She touched the words gently. This woman, this Sarah, had tried, had seen beyond the propaganda and the hatred to something human underneath. If Benjamin's wife could do that, maybe Benjamin himself could, too. Nayeli closed the journal. Tomorrow they would begin preparations in earnest. In 3 days, they would ride out. And in 3 weeks, if they survived, she might see her brother again. The thought made her heart race and her hands shake. 2 years of searching, 2 years of not knowing if he was alive or broken or lost beyond recovery. Soon she would know. Scout whined in his sleep. Nayeli reached down and touched his head. The dog calmed immediately. "We will find him," she whispered to the sleeping hound. "We will bring him home." Outside, the wind picked up. Storm clouds gathered in the distance. The first cold snap of autumn approaching, but inside the cabin warmth remained. Fragile, uncertain, but real, and for now that was enough. 3 days of preparation passed like hours. Benjamin taught Nayeli how to load and fire the spare rifle Walker had given them. She was a natural steady hands, good eye, no hesitation. By the second day, she could hit a tin can at 50 yards. By the third, she never missed. "My father taught me with a bow," she said, sighting down the barrel. "This is louder, but the principle is the same. Breathe, aim, release. Except with a rifle, you squeeze, not release. I know what I am doing, Benjamin." She did. That was becoming clear. Whatever softness the auction and captivity had worn into her was burning away, revealing the warrior underneath. Benjamin watched her practice and felt both relief and concern. Relief because they'd need that warrior. Concern because he knew what happened to warriors who never got to stop fighting. On the morning of the 4th day, they loaded the horses. 2 now Benjamin had traded his remaining saddle and tools for a second mare, older but steady, Nayeli's horse. She'd named it Tuha, which she said meant friend in Comanche. "You ready?" Benjamin asked as the sun cleared the horizon. Nayeli looked back at the cabin one last time, at Sarah's garden, at the small piece of safety they were leaving behind. Then she turned forward. "I have been ready for 2 years." Scout limped between the horses, tail wagging despite his age. Benjamin had fashioned a sling that would let the old dog ride when he got tired. Nayeli had insisted. They rode west, following the route Walker had marked. The first 2 days were easy open country, good weather, no signs of patrols or trouble. They camped cold both nights, no fires, speaking little. But the silence between them had changed. Less hostile, more companionable. On the 3rd day, the land began to rise. Hills covered in cedar and oak, rocky soil that made the horses work. They were entering the territory Walker had marked as uncertain, too remote for regular patrols, but also too remote for help if something went wrong. Around noon, Nayeli pulled up her horse. "What is it?" Benjamin asked. "Smoke, north of here, maybe 2 miles. Benjamin squinted, saw nothing, but he'd learned not to question her eyes. Could be settlers. Could be. Or could be soldiers burning another village. They looked at each other. The smart thing was to avoid it, stay on course. But Benjamin saw something in Nayeli's expression, a need to know, to not turn away from other people's suffering the way so many had turned away from hers. "We'll check it out," he said. "Quick look, then we keep moving." They approached carefully, leaving the horses tied in a cedar grove with Scout standing guard, moved through the trees on foot, keeping low. The smoke smell got stronger, wood, but also something else, something that made Benjamin's stomach turn. They crested a rise and saw it, a homestead, or what was left of one. The cabin was still burning, the barn had already collapsed. Bodies in the yard, a man, a woman, 2 small children, and soldiers, 6 of them loading supplies onto a wagon. "Bandits dressed as soldiers," Nayeli whispered. "No." Benjamin's voice was hollow. "Look at the uniforms. Those are real." One of the soldiers laughed at something. Another kicked the dead man's body. A third emerged from the cabin carrying a bag that clinked with coins or silver. "They are robbing them," Nayeli said, "after killing them. Not they, he." Because now Benjamin could see the officer directing the operation, tall, scarred face moving with the casual authority of someone who'd done this before. Even at this distance, even after 3 years, Benjamin knew him, Captain Marcus Blackwood. "We have to go," Benjamin said urgently. "Now." But Nayeli wasn't listening. She was staring at Blackwood with an expression Benjamin had seen on men's faces right before they charged into certain death. Nayeli, we can't help them. They're already dead. If Blackwood sees us, he killed my father. Her voice was barely audible. That man killed my father, and now he is killing these people and stealing their money, and no one will stop him. We'll stop him later when we have help. When? She turned to him, eyes blazing. When will there be a good time to stop him? How many more families will die while we ride away? I don't know, but I know if we go down there now, we'll die too, and your brother will never be found. That stopped her. Benjamin watched the war play out across her face. Rage versus duty, vengeance versus love. Finally, she turned away from the homestead. We go, but I will remember this. I will remember that we had to run while that man murdered innocents. I'll remember it too, Benjamin said quietly. They made it back to the horses and rode hard for an hour, putting distance between them and Blackwood's men. When they finally stopped, Nayeli dismounted and walked away into the trees. Benjamin heard her throwing up. He found her sitting on a rock, arms wrapped around her knees, shaking. First time seeing it, he asked gently. The casual cruelty of it. No, I have seen it before, many times. She looked up at him. But this time I could have done something. I had a gun. I had the advantage of surprise. I could have shot him. You would have gotten one shot, maybe two. Then his men would have killed us both. At least he would be dead. And your brother would never know what happened to you. Would spend his whole life wondering if you were alive, if you were looking for him, if you'd given up. Benjamin sat down beside her. That's what you'd give him, a lifetime of wondering. Nayeli was quiet for a long moment. I hate that you are right. I hate it too. They sat there as the sun moved across the sky. Scout eventually found them and collapsed between them with a groan. Nayeli scratched his ears absently. Tell me about him, Benjamin said finally. Your brother, what was he like? Nayeli's expression softened slightly. Stubborn, so stubborn, like a little bull. Once he decided something, nothing could change his mind. She almost smiled. When he was 6, he decided he was going to catch a wild horse. Spent 3 months trying. Everyone told him it was impossible. He did it anyway. Sounds like someone else I know. He was also kind, gentler than most boys his age. He cried when animals died, tried to save baby birds that fell from nests. Her voice caught. I do not know if that kindness survived. If the reservation broke it out of him, if he's as stubborn as you say it didn't. You cannot know that. No, but I can hope it, and so can you. They rode until dark, making camp in a hollow protected from wind. Still no fire too risky this close to Blackwood's territory. They ate cold beans and hardtack while Scout snored nearby. How long were you married? Nayeli asked suddenly. You and Sarah. Benjamin was surprised by the question. 5 years, met her in San Antonio. She was teaching at a church school. He trailed off. Drinking, fighting, trying to forget the war. She saw me get thrown out of a saloon, and instead of crossing the street like any sensible person, she walked right up and asked if I needed help. Benjamin shook his head at the memory. I told her to mind her own business. She said God's business was everybody's business. Drove me crazy. But you married her. She wouldn't leave me alone, kept showing up, bringing food, checking if I was alive, dragging me to church services. He smiled despite himself. Finally, I figured the only way to get rid of her was to marry her. And did it work? Worst plan I ever had. She just got more persistent. The smile faded. She was the best thing that ever happened to me, and I wasn't there when she needed me most. Nayeli was quiet. Then, my mother used to say that the dead do not want our guilt. They want us to live well, to honor them by becoming better. Sarah said something similar, right before Benjamin stopped. She was burning with fever, barely conscious, but she grabbed my hand and said, "Don't waste this." I didn't know what she meant then. And now, Now I think she meant the life I had left, the chance to do something that mattered. He looked at Naeli. Maybe that's this. Maybe this is what she meant. Or maybe, Naeli said carefully, she meant you should stop punishing yourself and live. Before Benjamin could respond, Scout's head came up. A low growl rumbled in the old dog's chest, something Benjamin hadn't heard in years. They both froze, listened. Hoofbeats, multiple horses, coming from the direction they'd traveled. Benjamin's hand went to his rifle. Naeli already had hers. They moved apart, taking cover on opposite sides of the hollow. Scout stayed silent now, just watching. The hoofbeats got closer, then stopped. Voices carried through the darkness, low, cautious. At least 3 men, maybe more. Tracks led this way. Can't see nothing in this dark. Blackwood wants them found. Benjamin's blood turned to ice. They'd been followed. Somehow, despite their caution, Blackwood's men had picked up their trail. A light appeared, a lantern bobbing through the trees. Getting closer. Naeli caught Benjamin's eye, pointed to herself, then to the left. Pointed to him, then to the right. A flanking position. He nodded. They moved like ghosts, circling around. Benjamin could see them now. 4 soldiers, one holding the lantern, all armed. They were following the tracks right into the hollow where the horses were tied. There. One of them spotted the horses. Told you they were close. Where are the riders, though? Another asked nervously. Probably sleeping. Come on. They advanced into the hollow. Benjamin waited until they were fully committed, surrounded on 3 sides. Then he stepped out. That's far enough. All 4 soldiers spun. The one with the lantern dropped it. For a moment, they all just stared at each other in the flickering light. Then one of them recognized Benjamin. Hayes, Benjamin Hayes. Benjamin squinted. The voice was familiar. Then he saw the face and his stomach dropped. Private Wilson had served under him during the Red River campaign, a kid then, not much older now. Wilson. Sir, I thought you were dead. Heard you'd disappeared after... Wilson stopped, looked around. Sir, where's the Comanche woman? Captain Blackwood said you'd kidnapped a prisoner from Silver Creek, said you'd gone rogue. I didn't kidnap anyone. She came with me willingly. That's not what the captain says. He's got a warrant. Says you're aiding an escaped hostile. Says... Wilson's eyes widened as Naeli stepped out of the shadows, rifle trained on his companions. Jesus. Nobody move, Naeli said calmly. Ma'am, I don't want any trouble, one of the other soldiers began. Then you should not have followed us. Benjamin kept his rifle steady. Wilson, listen to me. Blackwood lied to you. That woman was being sold illegally at auction. I bought her freedom. There's no kidnapping, no escaped prisoner, just a man trying to help someone find her family. Wilson looked confused, but the captain said, the captain is running illegal raids on settlements, killing families and robbing them. We saw him this afternoon, watched him murder a homesteader and his family. That's not, sir, that's not possible. We were on patrol all day. Captain Blackwood was with us. Benjamin and Naeli exchanged glances. If Wilson believed Blackwood had been with them all day, then Blackwood had split his force. Some men running official patrols, others conducting massacres. Wilson, how many men does Blackwood have total? 20, sir, split into 3 squads. And where are the other 2 squads right now? Wilson hesitated. I don't know. Captain doesn't tell us everything. Because he's using you as cover, Benjamin said. While you run legitimate patrols, he's taking other men and murdering civilians. You're lying, but Wilson's voice lacked conviction. Am I? When's the last time you saw the full unit together? When's the last time Blackwood accounted for everyone? Wilson opened his mouth, closed it. 2 weeks ago, maybe 3. And in that time, how many homesteads have been attacked? How many families killed? Sir, I can't... 4, one of the other soldiers said quietly. Everyone turned to look at him. He was older, weathered. 4 that I know of, maybe more, always blamed on bandits or Indians. But now that you mention it, he looked at Benjamin. The timing's suspicious. Shut up, Garrett, Wilson snapped. You don't know what you're talking about. Don't I? Where was Blackwood last Tuesday? He said he was scouting, gone all day. That night the Henderson place burned, whole family dead. That was Comanche raiders, was it? Garrett looked at Nayeli. Ma'am, were your people raiding settlements last week? My people are dead or imprisoned, Nayeli said flatly. There are no Comanche raiders within 100 miles of here. Silence fell over the hollow. Benjamin watched Wilson's face as the truth sank in, watched the boy realize he'd been used. We have to go back, Wilson said finally. Have to report this to who? Benjamin asked. Blackwood is your commanding officer. You report to him. Then Fort Richardson, the colonel there, is Blackwood's uncle. You think he'll believe you over his nephew? Wilson looked lost. Then what do we do? You let us go, Benjamin said. You ride back, tell Blackwood you lost our trail in the dark. Give us a head start. Sir, I can't. If the captain finds out I let you go. Then don't let him find out. Benjamin lowered his rifle slightly. Wilson, I know you. You're a good soldier, a good man. You enlisted to protect people, not to be part of murder squads. Sir, I'm not asking you to desert. I'm not asking you to fight your own men. I'm just asking you to look the other way for one night. Let us get far enough ahead that you can honestly say you couldn't find us. Wilson looked at his companions. Garrett nodded slowly. The other two seemed uncertain but not hostile. If we do this, Wilson said carefully, you didn't see us. We didn't see you. Understood. And you, Wilson looked at Nayeli. You're not going to hurt anyone. You're just looking for your brother. That is all I want, Nayeli said. I do not want to fight you. I do not want to kill anyone. I just want my brother back. Something in her voice must have convinced him. Wilson nodded. All right, we'll head back. Report we lost the trail. That'll buy you maybe 12 hours before Blackwood sends out more men. Thank you, Benjamin said. Don't thank me. Wilson swallowed hard. Just make sure she finds her brother. Make it worth lying for. We will. The soldiers mounted up. As Wilson turned to leave, he paused. Sir, for what it's worth, I'm sorry. About Red River, about all of it. Some of us knew it was wrong, but we followed orders anyway. I know, Benjamin said. I did the same thing. Does it get better? The guilt. Benjamin looked at Nayeli. I don't know yet. Ask me when this is over. Wilson nodded and rode off with his men. Their hoofbeats faded into darkness. Nayeli lowered her rifle. That was a risk. Yeah. He could have been lying, could be riding to get reinforcements right now. He could be, but I don't think so. Benjamin picked up the dropped lantern. Wilson's one of the good ones, the kind who joined for the right reasons, and hasn't figured out yet that right reasons don't matter in wrong wars. Were you like that once? Maybe, long time ago. Benjamin looked at her. We should move. Put some distance between us and here before Blackwood realizes Wilson let us go. They rode through the night, pushing the horses as hard as they dared. Scout eventually had to ride in on his sling, the old dog too tired to walk. But he didn't complain, just licked Nayeli's hand and slept. Dawn found them in rougher country, deep ravines and steep hillsides covered in scrub, hard to track through, hard to follow. They finally stopped to rest the horses and themselves. How far to Fort Sill? Nayeli asked, slumping against a rock. 2 weeks if the weather holds, 3 if it doesn't. And Blackwood will chase us the whole way. Probably. Benjamin poured water from his canteen into his hat for Scout. The old dog lapped it gratefully. But we have advantages now. Wilson's delay bought us time, and we know Blackwood's operating in secret. He can't exactly raise a public manhunt without explaining why he wants us so badly. So we just run. We run smart. Stay off main trails. Use the safe houses Walker marked. Move fast. Stay quiet. Benjamin looked at her. We've made it this far. This far is not far enough. No, but it's something. They rested through the heat of the day, sleeping in shifts. When evening came, they moved again. This became their pattern: travel at dawn and dusk, rest during full daylight and deep night. Harder on the horses, harder on them, but safer. 3 days passed without incident, then 4. They crossed into territory Walker had marked: green Quaker settlements, missionaries, people who wouldn't turn them in. Benjamin began to think they might actually make it. On the 5th day, they reached a way station Walker had marked, a small farmhouse run by a retired missionary named Thomas Fletcher and his wife Mary. Benjamin knocked on the door cautiously. Fletcher answered, a round man with white hair and gentle eyes. He looked at Benjamin, then at Naeli, then smiled. "You must be the folks Walker wrote about. Come in, come in." Mary put on coffee. The warmth of the house was overwhelming after days in the cold. Mary Fletcher, a small woman with laugh lines around her eyes, immediately began fussing over Naeli. "Oh, child, you're half-starved. Tom, get the stew and draw water for washing. They both look like they've been dragged through the territory backwards." "We have," Benjamin admitted. "Well, you're safe here. We don't get army patrols out this way, too remote, and the Quakers made it clear that soldiers aren't welcome without cause." Over hot food and real coffee, they explained their situation. Fletcher listened quietly, nodding occasionally. When they finished, he exchanged a look with his wife. "I know your brother," Mary said to Naeli. Everyone froze. "What?" Naeli's voice was barely a whisper. "The boy at Fort Sill, Aote Tree. I know him. We visit the mission school there twice a year." Mary smiled. "He's a good boy, smart, still has that medicine bag he won't let anyone touch." Naeli's hands started shaking. "He is alive, you are certain?" "Certain as I'm standing here. Saw him last month. He was helping in the garden, teaching younger children how to identify medicine plants." Mary reached across the table and took Naeli's hands. "He talks about you, about his sister who he knows is looking for him." Tears streamed down Naeli's face. "He remembers me. He remembers everything. Keeps saying his sister will come, that she promised she'd always find him." Mary squeezed her hands. "Looks like he was right." Benjamin watched Naeli cry, really cry, for the first time since he'd met her. Not tears of rage or pain, but of relief and hope. He felt his own eyes burn. "We need to get there," Naeli said urgently. "Now, tonight." 2 more weeks, Fletcher said gently. "I know it's hard, but you're exhausted. Your horses are exhausted. Rest here for a few days. Let us provision you properly. Then go to your brother strong, not half dead." Naeli looked ready to argue, but Benjamin spoke first. "He's right. We've been lucky so far, but we're running on empty. A few days' rest won't change anything except our odds of actually making it." "But if Blackwood has lost our trail," Fletcher interrupted. "Trust me, we'd know if there were soldiers searching nearby. The Quaker network would warn us." Naeli wavered. Finally, she nodded. 3 days, no more." 3 days, Fletcher agreed. Those 3 days passed in a blur of rest and preparation. Mary helped Naeli mend her clothes and gave her a proper winter coat. Fletcher checked the horses, reshoed them, loaded them with supplies. Benjamin cleaned weapons and studied maps, planning the final leg of their journey. On the 2nd night, Benjamin found Naeli sitting on the porch, staring at the stars. "Can't sleep?" he asked. "Too close now. I keep thinking something will go wrong, that we'll get there and he'll be gone, or dead, or he's not dead." "You heard Mary?" "I heard Mary say he was alive last month. That was 4 weeks ago." Benjamin sat down beside her. "You're going to see him again. I know it." "How can you know?" "Because you're too stubborn to let anything else happen. And because—" He paused. "Because some stories deserve happy endings, and this one does." Naeli looked at him. "What about your story? Does it deserve a happy ending?" "Mine's not about endings, it's about—" Benjamin struggled for words. "About doing one thing right after doing so many things wrong. If I help you find your brother, that's enough. That's more than I deserve." "You deserve more than you think," Naeli said quietly. "So do you." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the night sky. Scout snored at their feet. Inside, the Fletchers were laughing about something. For a moment it felt almost peaceful. Then Mary came to the door. "Benjamin, there's someone here to see you." He tensed. "Who?" "Says his name is Wilson. Private Wilson. Says it's urgent." Benjamin and Naeli exchanged looks, drew their weapons, moved to the door carefully. Wilson stood in the yard alone, looking exhausted. His horse was lathered clearly, ridden hard. "Sir," he said when he saw Benjamin, "I'm sorry to come here, but you need to know. Blackwood figured out I let you go. He's coming, with 12 men. They left Fort Richardson this morning." "How did he find us?" "Someone at Silver Creek told him about Reverend Walker." Blackwood questioned Walker. Wilson's voice cracked. "Tortured him, sir. Walker didn't tell him much, but he mentioned the Fletchers. Blackwood's headed this way." Benjamin felt sick. "When will they get here?" "Tomorrow, maybe the day after, if the weather slows them." "We have to leave," Naeli said immediately. "Now." "Wait." Fletcher had come outside. "This is my home. I won't be run off by a bully with a uniform." "Mr. Fletcher, Captain Blackwood will kill you," Wilson said. "He's past caring about rules or consequences. He just wants them caught." "Then he'll have to go through me." Fletcher's voice was steel. "Tom," Mary began. "No, Mary. Walker suffered for helping these people. I won't let his sacrifice be for nothing, and I won't let Blackwood hurt anyone else." Benjamin looked at the old missionary, saw the same stubborn righteousness he'd seen in Sarah, the same refusal to bend to evil. "There's another way," Benjamin said slowly. "We don't run, we wait. Let Blackwood come here." Everyone stared at him. "That's suicide," Wilson said. "No, it's a trap." Benjamin's mind was racing. Blackwood's operating off the books, no official orders, no authorization. If we can capture him, get him to confess what he's been doing, we can end this. "How?" Naeli asked. "By making him think he's won." Benjamin looked at Fletcher. "You've got a root cellar right big enough to hide in." "Yes." "Good. Here's what we do." They worked through the night. Fletcher and Wilson moved furniture, creating sight lines and cover positions. Mary gathered every lantern in the house, placing them strategically. Benjamin checked ammunition counts and weapon conditions. Naeli disappeared into the barn and came back with rope nails and a grim expression. "You are certain this will work?" she asked Benjamin as they reinforced the front door. "No, but it's better than running forever." "If it fails, we die here. If it fails, we die fighting instead of running. I can live with that." He paused. "Can you?" Naeli tested the door. It would hold for a few minutes under assault, maybe longer. "Yes, I can live with that, or die with it." By dawn, the Fletcher homestead had been transformed into a fortress, not impregnable, but defensible. Fletcher stood in the center of his living room, surveying the changes with an odd mix of sadness and determination. "Never thought I'd turn my home into a battlefield," he said quietly. "Better a battlefield than a grave," Benjamin replied. Mary brought coffee. Her hands were steady, but Benjamin saw the fear in her eyes. "How long do we have?" "Wilson thinks they'll arrive by midday, maybe sooner if they pushed through the night." Benjamin accepted the coffee gratefully. "When they get here, you and Mr. Fletcher need to be in that root cellar. No arguments. This is our home, which is exactly why you need to survive to keep it." Benjamin's voice was gentle but firm. "Blackwood will burn it if he gets the chance. You can rebuild a house. We can't rebuild you." Fletcher opened his mouth to argue, but Mary touched his arm. "He's right, Tom. We'll be more help alive than dead." "What about Wilson?" Fletcher asked. "Where does he fit in this?" Wilson, who'd been checking the windows, turned. "I'm staying up here. If Blackwood thinks I'm still tracking them, it might buy us surprise." "He'll know you betrayed him the moment shooting starts," Naeli said. "I know." Wilson's jaw was set. "But Hayes is right. What Blackwood's doing, what I've been part of without knowing, it has to stop. If I die stopping it, at least I die for something real. Benjamin gripped the younger man's shoulder. You're a good soldier, Wilson. Better than I ever was. I learned from the best, sir. They waited. The morning stretched like taffy, each minute feeling like an hour. Scout sensed the tension and stayed close to Nayeli, whining occasionally. She kept one hand on his head, drawing comfort from the old dog's presence. Around 11, Wilson stiffened at the window. Movement, East Ridge, multiple riders. Benjamin moved to look. A line of cavalry was cresting the hill, moving in formation. Professional, disciplined. At the front rode a tall figure on a black horse. That's him, Benjamin said quietly. That's Blackwood. Nayeli came to the window, stared at the man who'd killed her father, destroyed her village, shattered her world. Her hand tightened on her rifle. Not yet, Benjamin said. We wait until they're committed, until they're close enough that retreat is harder than advance. The riders approached slowly, cautiously. Blackwood raised his hand and the unit stopped about 100 yards out. He surveyed the homestead with the practiced eye of a man who'd attacked many buildings before. Then he called out, his voice carrying easily across the distance. Benjamin Hayes, I know you're in there. Come out peacefully and we can settle this without bloodshed. Benjamin glanced at Wilson. The private nodded. This was the moment. Wilson stepped to the door, opened it, and walked out onto the porch. Captain Blackwood, sir. Blackwood's expression shifted from surprise to cold fury. Wilson, where are the others from your squad? Lost them in the dark, sir, but I tracked Hayes here. He's inside with the woman. The homeowners are sheltering them. Are they now? Blackwood's voice was ice. And you didn't think to apprehend them yourself? Thought it better to wait for reinforcements, sir. Hayes is armed and dangerous. The woman, too. Blackwood studied Wilson for a long moment. Benjamin could see the calculation happening. Did Blackwood believe him or not? Then Blackwood smiled, and Benjamin knew they were in trouble. You always were a terrible liar, Wilson, even as a private. Blackwood raised his voice. Hayes, final chance, come out, or we burn you out. Benjamin stepped to the door, stood beside Wilson. I'm here, Marcus. Benjamin. Blackwood said his name like a curse. 3 years since Red River. You look like hell. Prison and guilt will do that to a man. Prison, Blackwood laughed. You were never in prison. You just ran away. Deserted your post, abandoned your duty, and hid like a coward on that pathetic ranch. Better than staying and becoming you. Blackwood's smile vanished. Careful, Benjamin. You're not in a position to insult me. Aren't I? You're here off the books, running an illegal operation, chasing a man and woman who've committed no crime. How's that going to look when the colonel finds out? The colonel is my uncle. He'll believe whatever I tell him. Will he believe you murdered the Henderson family, the Johnsons, the Rodriguezes? Benjamin watched Blackwood's face. We saw you, Marcus, 2 days ago. Watched you kill that homesteader and rob his body. For a moment, genuine surprise crossed Blackwood's features. Then it was gone, replaced by cold calculation. If you saw that, then you know what I'm capable of. And you know I'll do it again right here, right now, unless you hand over that Comanche woman. Her name is Nayeli. I don't care what her name is. She's property, escaped property, and I'm taking her back to face justice. Justice, Nayeli's voice rang out as she appeared in the doorway. You speak of justice, you who murdered my father, you who burned my village, you who killed children and called it duty. Blackwood's eyes narrowed. So you do speak English. Good. Makes this easier. He leaned forward in his saddle. Your father was a terrorist. Your village was a hostile encampment. And those children, he shrugged, casualties of war. There is no war. Nayeli's voice shook with rage. The war ended. The treaties were signed, but you could not stop killing because killing is all you know. Killing is all I'm good at, Blackwood agreed, and I've gotten very, very good at it. He straightened. Last chance. Come out peacefully or die violently. Your choice. Benjamin felt the moment crystallize. This was it. The point where words ended and bullets began. He looked at Wilson, saw the same understanding in the younger man's eyes. "We're not coming out, Marcus." "Then you're all dead." Blackwood turned to his men. "Burn them out. Kill anyone who runs." The soldiers hesitated. One of them, a Sergeant Benjamin didn't recognize, spoke up. "Sir, there are civilians in that building. Women and children, possibly. Protocol requires you to follow my orders, Sergeant." Blackwood's voice was steel. "Or would you prefer to join Wilson in his treason?" The sergeant looked at Wilson, at Benjamin, at the homestead, then at Blackwood. "No, sir, but I'll need your order in writing." "You'll need what?" "Written authorization to fire on a civilian structure, sir. Army regulations require." Blackwood drew his pistol and shot the sergeant through the chest. The man fell from his horse dead before he hit the ground. The other soldiers froze in shock. Blackwood turned his pistol on them. "Anyone else want to discuss regulations?" Nobody moved. "Good." Blackwood holstered his weapon. "Jenkins, Stokes, you're on the left flank. Morrison, Whitfield, right flank. Martinez, bring up the torches. The rest of you provide covering fire. Move." The soldiers moved because they were trained to move when ordered, even when the orders were insane. But Benjamin could see the horror on their faces, could see them realizing they were no longer serving their country, they were serving a madman. Wilson acted first, spun and ran for the door. "Get inside now." They tumbled through the doorway as the first shots rang out. Bullets splintered the door frame. Benjamin slammed the door shut and threw the bolt. Wilson dragged a heavy cabinet in front of it. "They're flanking us." Naeli was already at the side window, rifle up. 2 men on each side. "Fletcher, Mary, root cellar now," Benjamin shouted. But now the Fletchers disappeared through the kitchen floor as more gunfire erupted. The windows on the left side shattered. Benjamin took position at one, Wilson at another. Naeli stayed right, watching the flanking soldiers creep closer. "They're going to torch us," Wilson said. "Once they're in position, they'll throw torches and shoot anyone who runs out." "Not if we stop them first." Benjamin sighted down his rifle, saw one of the soldiers, Jenkins, moving through Fletcher's garden, head down, torch in hand. Benjamin breathed out slowly and squeezed the trigger. Jenkins dropped. The torch fell harmlessly in the dirt. "One down," Benjamin said. Naeli fired. Another soldier fell on the right side. 2. The remaining soldiers dove for cover. Blackwood's voice rang out, "Suppressing fire, don't let them aim." A storm of bullets hit the house. Windows exploded. The walls, sturdy as they were, shuddered under the impact. Benjamin and the others flattened themselves, waiting for the fusillade to end. When it did, Benjamin risked a look. The soldiers were advancing again, more carefully now. Blackwood had dismounted and was directing them like chess pieces, using hand signals to coordinate their assault. "He's good at this," Wilson said grimly. "He's done this before." "Which means he has patterns," Benjamin replied. "Habits. What's his standard attack formation?" Wilson thought for a moment. 3-point assault. Flankers draw attention while the center breaches. Wilson's eyes widened. "He'll hit the back door. While we're watching the sides, he'll send men to breach the kitchen entrance." "Fletcher," Benjamin shouted toward the root cellar. "Block the back door. Anything heavy, you can push against it." Fletcher's muffled voice came back. "Already done. Use the wood stove." "Smart man." Benjamin turned back to the window just as Blackwood made his move. 3 soldiers charged the front door with a makeshift battering ram, a heavy log they'd grabbed from Fletcher's woodpile. They hit the door hard, once, twice. The wood cracked. "They're through in one more hit." Wilson raised his rifle. "Wait." Benjamin held up his hand, counted under his breath. "Wait for it." The soldiers swung the ram back for a third strike. At that moment, Benjamin and Naeli fired simultaneously. 2 soldiers dropped. The third, unbalanced, staggered backward and fell. But the damage was done. The door was compromised. One good kick would take it down now. "Fall back," Benjamin ordered. Second position. They'd planned for this, abandoned the windows and moved to the interior of the house, taking cover behind the heavy furniture Fletcher had repositioned. It created a killing field. Anyone coming through that door would be caught in a crossfire with no cover. Outside, Blackwood called for another assault. This time, 4 men approached the door. One kicked it, and it flew inward, hanging on one hinge. The soldiers rushed in, and Benjamin's world became noise and smoke and violence. He fired, reloaded, fired again. Wilson was shouting something. Nayeli was shooting with mechanical precision. Bodies fell. Men screamed. Someone threw a torch, and it landed on Fletcher's rug, catching immediately. "Fire!" Wilson yelled. "The house is burning." Benjamin kicked the torch aside, but the damage was spreading. The old rug was going up fast, flames licking at the furniture, smoke filling the room. "We have to get out," Wilson shouted. "Not yet." Benjamin returned fire through the door. "They're expecting us to panic. We hold this position until—" An explosion rocked the house. The side wall blew inward in a shower of splinters and dust. Someone had rigged black powder charges. Through the gap poured more soldiers. They were surrounded. Benjamin fired until his rifle clicked empty, drew his pistol. Beside him, Wilson was down, bleeding from a head wound, but still conscious. Nayeli had taken a bullet in her shoulder but kept shooting one-handed, her face a mask of determination and pain. This was it. The end. They'd killed or wounded half of Blackwood's force, but there were still too many. And the fire was spreading heat and smoke, making it hard to breathe, hard to see. Then Scout did something Benjamin would remember for the rest of his life. The old dog who'd been cowering under a table suddenly charged, not away from the danger but toward it, straight at Blackwood, who'd appeared in the shattered doorway, pistol raised and aimed at Nayeli's head. Scout's jaws clamped onto Blackwood's gun hand. The captain screamed and fired reflexively, but the bullet went wild. He tried to shake the dog off, but Scout held on with ancient, desperate strength. "No!" Nayeli screamed. "Scout, no!" Blackwood got his other hand on his knife, raised it, brought it down into Scout's side. The old dog yelped once and fell, but those few seconds had been enough. Benjamin was already moving, crossed the distance in 3 steps and hit Blackwood like a freight train. They went down hard, rolling across the burning floor. Benjamin's pistol went flying. Blackwood's knife skittered away. They grappled hand to hand, years of hatred and guilt and rage, channeled into pure violence. Blackwood was younger, stronger, better trained. But Benjamin was fighting for something bigger than himself. He was fighting for Nayeli, for her brother, for every innocent person Blackwood had murdered, for the boy he'd been before the army broke him, for Sarah's memory, for Scout's sacrifice. He was fighting to be better than he'd been. They crashed through the burning furniture. Benjamin's hands found Blackwood's throat, squeezed. Blackwood's knee found Benjamin's ribs. Pain exploded. They broke apart, gasping. "You should have stayed hidden," Blackwood wheezed. "Should have kept your head down like the coward you are." "Maybe," Benjamin said, "but cowards don't change, and I'm done being what I was." He charged again. This time Blackwood was ready, redirecting Benjamin's momentum and slamming him into the wall. Stars exploded across Benjamin's vision. He felt Blackwood's hands on his throat now, squeezing, cutting off air. Then a gunshot rang out. Blackwood jerked, stumbled backward, looked down at the spreading red stain on his uniform, then looked up at Nayeli, who stood 10 feet away with a smoking pistol in her good hand. "That," she said quietly, "is for my father." Blackwood collapsed to his knees. The remaining soldiers, seeing their commander fall, faltered. Some dropped their weapons. Others backed toward the door. Wilson, bleeding but functional, stood up. "It's over. Stand down. That's an order." One by one, the soldiers lowered their rifles. They looked shell-shocked, horrified. These were good men who'd been led by a monster. Now the monster was dying on the floor, and they didn't know what to do. "Get out," Benjamin said, "all of you, before this whole place comes down." They fled. Benjamin grabbed Nayeli and Wilson, supporting both of them. "The Fletchers. We're here." Fletcher emerged from the root cellar, Mary right behind him. "We're all right. Then we go now." They stumbled out into the yard as the house groaned behind them. The fire had spread to the roof now. It would be a total loss. Behind them, inside the burning building, Blackwood tried to stand. Failed. Fell. His eyes found Benjamin through the smoke and flames. "Help me," he whispered. Benjamin stopped, looked at the man who'd destroyed so much, who'd murdered innocents, who'd turned good soldiers into killers, who deserved to burn. Naeli grabbed Benjamin's arm. "Leave him. He deserves worse than fire." She was right. Blackwood deserved to die screaming, deserved every moment of agony that was coming. Benjamin knew that, but he also knew what Sarah would say, what she'd always said, that mercy wasn't about what people deserved, it was about who you chose to be. "Damn it," Benjamin muttered. He pulled away from Naeli and ran back into the burning house. "Benjamin, no." Naeli's voice was distant, muffled by smoke. He found Blackwood collapsed near the shattered wall, grabbed him under the arms and dragged. The captain was dead weight, barely conscious. The heat was incredible, the smoke choking. Benjamin's lungs screamed for air. They made it 3 feet, 5. The doorway was so close, but Benjamin's strength was failing. He stumbled, fell, took Blackwood down with him. "This is where it ends," he thought. Saving the man I should have killed years ago. Then hands grabbed him, Wilson on one side, Fletcher on the other. Together they hauled both men out of the inferno and into the cold morning air. Benjamin collapsed on the ground, coughing, gasping. Beside him, Blackwood lay still, barely breathing. Naeli knelt nearby, pressing a cloth to Scout's wound. The old dog's breathing was shallow, labored. "Why?" Naeli demanded, looking at Benjamin. "Why did you save him?" Benjamin couldn't answer, didn't have the words, just shook his head and coughed more. Mary Fletcher provided the answer. "Because mercy is stronger than hate," she said softly. "And the only way to break a cycle of violence is to choose differently." They sat there in the yard watching the Fletcher homestead burn. The surviving soldiers had gathered their wounded and dead. Nobody spoke. The enormity of what had happened was still sinking in. Finally, one of the soldiers, a corporal, approached Benjamin. "Sir, what do we do now?" Benjamin looked up. "You document everything. Every illegal raid, every murdered family, every order Blackwood gave that violated military law and human decency. You take that documentation to Fort Richardson's quartermaster, not the colonel, the quartermaster. Man named Preston. He's honest. And Captain Blackwood." Benjamin looked at the dying officer. "You get him medical attention. If he lives, he stands trial. If he dies..." Benjamin stopped. "If he dies, you make sure everyone knows why. You make sure his crimes don't stay buried." The corporal nodded slowly. "Yes, sir." They fashioned a stretcher for Blackwood and loaded him onto a horse. The soldiers prepared to ride out. As they mounted up, Wilson approached Benjamin. "I'm going with them," Wilson said. "Someone needs to make sure the testimony happens. That justice actually..." He stopped. "I need to see this through." "I understand." "Sir, for what it's worth, you're the best officer I ever served under. Today reminded me why." Benjamin gripped Wilson's hand. "You're twice the soldier I ever was. Don't forget that." Wilson nodded. Then he looked at Naeli. "Ma'am, I hope you find your brother. I hope some good comes from all this." "Thank you," Naeli said quietly, "for choosing the right side. Learned it from watching you both." Wilson mounted up and rode off with the others, heading back toward Fort Richardson and accountability. When they were gone, Benjamin turned to the Fletchers. The old couple stood hand in hand, watching their home burn to the ground, everything they'd built over decades, gone. "I'm so sorry," Benjamin said. "We brought this here. We destroyed your home." Fletcher was quiet for a long moment. Then he smiled, and the smile was genuine. "You destroyed a building, but you saved something more important. You saved those soldiers' souls, gave them a chance to choose honor over obedience." He looked at Benjamin. "That's worth more than lumber and nails." "Where will you go?" Naeli asked. We have friends in the Quaker settlement, Mary said. They'll take us in. And when the army compensates us for the damages which they will, once Wilson's testimony is heard, we'll rebuild, better than before. If they compensate you, Benjamin said. They will, Fletcher's voice was certain, because you're going to make sure of it. When you get to Fort Sill, when you find that boy, you're going to tell everyone what happened here. You're going to make sure this story spreads until it's too big to bury. Benjamin nodded. I promise. They turned their attention to Scout. The old dog was still breathing, but the knife wound was bad. Mary cleaned and bandaged it as best she could, but they all knew the truth. Scout was dying. Nayeli sat with him, running her hand over his graying fur. You saved me, she whispered. Stupid brave dog, you saved me. Scout's tail thumped weakly. He licked her hand. We should put him down, Fletcher said gently. It's cruel to let him suffer. No. Nayeli's voice was firm. He fought for us. He gets to rest, not die alone in the dirt. We take him with us. Nayeli, he won't survive the journey. Then he dies trying, like a warrior, not abandoned. Benjamin understood. Scout had given them everything he had left. They owed him dignity. They fashioned a better sling for the dog, one that would cushion him during travel, loaded him carefully onto Nayeli's horse. Scout whimpered once, but settled, seeming to understand they weren't leaving him behind. The Fletchers provided fresh supplies. They'd kept a storehouse separate from the main building, and it had survived the fire. Food, blankets, ammunition, everything Benjamin and Nayeli would need for the final leg of their journey. As the sun reached its peak, they prepared to leave. Mary hugged Nayeli tightly. That boy is waiting for you. Don't make him wait any longer. I will not. Fletcher shook Benjamin's hand. What you did today, saving Blackwood, that took more courage than killing him would have. Remember that. I'll try. They mounted up, turned their horses west toward Fort Sill, toward Aote, toward the end of this long, bloody road. Behind them, the Fletcher homestead collapsed in on itself, sending up a pillar of smoke visible for miles. A marker of the day, everything changed. The day soldiers chose humanity over orders. The day mercy defeated hate. The day an old dog proved that the smallest souls sometimes held the biggest courage. Scout's breathing was shallow, but steady. Benjamin rode close enough to check on him periodically. The old dog met his eyes once, and Benjamin could have sworn he saw peace there. Acceptance. The knowledge that his fight was over and he'd won what mattered. We're going to get there, Nayeli said, more to herself than to Benjamin or Scout. We're going to make it. We're going to... Her voice broke. Benjamin reached over and squeezed her good shoulder. We're going to make it, he agreed. All of us. Together. And for the first time since this journey began, he believed it. They rode for 5 days through country that grew flatter and more desolate with each mile. Scout's breathing became more labored. Nayeli checked his bandages constantly, whispered to him in Comanche, willed him to hold on just a little longer. The old dog's eyes stayed on her, trusting, accepting whatever came. On the 6th morning, Benjamin woke to find Nayeli already up, sitting with Scout cradled in her lap. The dog was still breathing, but barely. His eyes were glazed, unfocused. He is leaving, Nayeli said quietly. I can feel it. Benjamin knelt beside them, scratched Scout's ears one last time. You did good, old boy. Better than good. You were a hero. Scout's tail moved fractionally. Then his breathing changed, became shallower, slower. Nayeli held him closer, rocking slightly, humming something that sounded like a lullaby. In my tribe, she said softly, we believe that dogs who die protecting their people become stars. They watch over us from the sky, guiding us when we are lost. Sarah believes something similar, Benjamin said. She used to say that love never really dies. It just changes form. They sat there as the sun rose, as Scout's breathing grew quieter and quieter. Finally, with one last exhale, the old dog went still. Nayeli's tears fell onto his fur. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you for choosing me, for saving me, for teaching me that even in darkness, there is still courage. They buried Scout on a hill overlooking the plains, marked his grave with stones arranged in a circle. Nayeli sang something in Comanche that Benjamin didn't understand but felt in his bones. A warrior's farewell, an acknowledgement of sacrifice, a promise that the debt would be remembered. When they rode away, Benjamin looked back once. For a moment he could have sworn he saw Sarah standing by the grave, one hand resting on the stones. She smiled at him, then she was gone. You saw her too, Nayeli said. It wasn't a question. Yeah. Good, that means he is not alone. They didn't speak much after that. The loss was too fresh, too raw. But that evening as they made camp, Nayeli said something that surprised Benjamin. I am glad you saved Blackwood. Benjamin looked up from the fire he was building. You are? Yes. Because killing him would have been easy. Letting him burn would have felt right. But you chose the harder path. The path that does not make you feel good, but makes you be good. She paused. My father used to say that anyone can be strong in battle. True strength is being strong enough to show mercy. Your father sounds like he was a wise man. He was, and he died because of men like Blackwood. But if I had let Blackwood burn, if we had become like him, then he would have won. He would have turned us into the monsters he claimed we were. Benjamin added wood to the fire. Sarah tried to teach me that for years. Took me this long to maybe start understanding it. Understanding is the first step. Living it is the second. Nayeli smiled slightly. We are both learning. The next day they reached the outer boundary of Fort Sill territory. The land here was different, more cultivated, more controlled. Fields stretched in neat rows. Fences marked property lines. In the distance, Benjamin could see the fort itself, flags flying above wooden walls, and beyond the fort, the reservation. Nayeli pulled up her horse, staring at it. Benjamin watched her face cycle through emotions, hope, fear, anger, determination. He is there, she said, somewhere in those buildings. My brother is there. We'll find him. What if he does not remember me? What if 3 years on a reservation has changed him so much that he remembers you? Mary Fletcher said so. He's been waiting for you. Nayeli nodded, but Benjamin could see her hands shaking. After 2 years of searching, of surviving, of fighting, she was finally here, and the terror of that was almost worse than the journey. They rode to the main gate. Guards stopped them, not soldiers, but Quakers dressed plainly, armed only with ledgers and stern expressions. State your business, one of them said, not unkindly but firmly. My name is Benjamin Hayes. This is Nayeli, daughter of Chief Nokona. We're here to retrieve her brother, a boy named Aote, who was brought here 3 years ago. The guards exchanged glances. You'll need to speak with the superintendent. Wait here. They waited for nearly an hour. Other people came and went, native families, missionaries, traders, all subject to the same bureaucratic process. Benjamin felt Nayeli's tension mounting with each passing minute. Finally, a thin woman in Quaker dress approached. She had kind eyes, but a no-nonsense demeanor. I'm Superintendent Ellis. You're here about one of our children. My brother, Nayeli said. Aote. He was taken from our village 3 years ago. I have been searching for him ever since. Ellis studied her carefully. There are procedures for reclaiming children from the reservation. Documentation is required. Proof of relation statements from authorities. We have a letter from Reverend Walker, Benjamin said, producing it, and one from Father Miguel in San Antonio. They vouch for Nayeli's identity and her brother's abduction. Ellis read both letters slowly. These help, but ultimately the decision rests with the child. If he wishes to stay here, if he feels this is his home now, we cannot force him to leave. He will want to come with me, Nayeli said, with absolute certainty. Perhaps, but he's been here for 3 years. He's learned English, learned to read and write, made friends. Leaving means giving up the stability he's found. Ellis's voice was gentle but realistic. Some children choose to stay. He will not. He is my brother. We made a promise to each other that nothing would ever separate us. He knows I have been searching. He knows I would never stop." Ellis nodded slowly. "Very well. Come with me. We'll speak with him." They followed her through the fort and into the reservation proper. It was larger than Benjamin had expected. Dozens of buildings, hundreds of people. Children ran between structures playing games that looked universal. Women worked in community gardens. Men repaired tools and structures. It looked almost normal except for the fence, except for the armed guards at the perimeter, except for the knowledge that everyone here was a prisoner, no matter how kindly their jailers treated them. Ellis led them to a schoolhouse. Inside, rows of children sat at desks, reciting English phrases in unison. A young Quaker teacher stood at the front, pointing at words on a chalkboard. And there, in the third row, sat a boy of about 11, dark hair, serious expression, a scar above his left eyebrow. He wore reservation clothes and held a slate, but around his neck hung a leather pouch with blue beading. Naeli made a sound like she'd been punched. Her hand went to her mouth. "Aote," she whispered. The boy's head snapped up. His eyes went wide. The slate fell from his hands and shattered on the floor. For a moment, nobody moved. The whole room seemed to hold its breath. Then Aote was running, shoving past desks and other children, running like his life depended on it. And Naeli was running too, her wounded shoulder forgotten, her exhaustion gone. They collided in the center of the room and went down in a tangle of arms and tears, and Comanche words spilling out too fast for Benjamin to follow, even if he understood the language. Aote was crying. Naeli was crying. They held each other like they'd never let go. The other children watched in awed silence. The teacher dabbed at her eyes. Even Ellis looked moved. Benjamin stayed back, giving them space. This moment wasn't his. This reunion he'd helped make possible but didn't belong in. Finally, Naeli pulled back enough to look at her brother's face. She touched the scar above his eyebrow gently. "You kept it," she said in English, nodding at the medicine bag. "I knew you would come," Aote replied in slightly accented but clear English. "They said our people were gone. They said I should forget, but I knew, Jiao, you would find me. I will always find you, no matter how long it takes, no matter how far I must travel." Aote looked past her at Benjamin. His expression became wary, uncertain. "Who is he?" Naeli glanced back at Benjamin. "His name is Benjamin Hayes. She stopped, struggling with how to explain. "He is the soldier who saved you 3 years ago when the village burned. He pulled you from under the horse. He wrapped your arm." Aote stared at Benjamin. Benjamin could see the boy processing this, connecting memories to the face before him. "I remember," Aote said slowly. "I remember the fire, the screaming, hiding under tall runner's horse after he fell. I remember thinking I would die there." He looked at Benjamin directly now. "You gave me water. You told me in broken Comanche that I was safe." Benjamin's throat tightened. "I'm sorry I couldn't do more. I'm sorry I couldn't stop what happened." "But you stopped what you could. You saved one life." Aote reached out and touched the medicine bag. "My sister's life, because if I had died, she would have had no one to search for. She would have given up." "I would never have given up," Naeli said fiercely, "but I thank the spirits every day that you survived." Superintendent Ellis stepped forward. "Aote, you understand what your sister is asking. She wants to take you away from here, away from your school, your friends, the life you've built." "This is not my life," Aote said quietly but firmly. "This is the life they tried to give me. My real life is with my sister, with my people, with the stories and songs they tried to make me forget, but I remembered anyway." "You're certain there's no shame in staying? Many children do. They find happiness here, purpose, education." "I am grateful for the education. I am grateful that the teachers were kind. But I have been a prisoner for 3 years. I am ready to be free." Ellis nodded. "Then you're free. I'll prepare the release documents." She looked at Naeli. "Where will you take him?" Naeli glanced at Benjamin, uncertainty crossing her face. They hadn't discussed this. In all their planning and all their focus on just getting here, they'd never talked about what came after. "There is land," Benjamin said slowly. 20 acres in Texas, a cabin that needs rebuilding, a garden that needs replanting. He looked at both of them. "It's not much, but it's safe, and it's yours, if you want it." "Your ranch?" Naeli asked. "You would share it. It's too big for one person anyway, and too quiet." Benjamin managed a small smile. "Besides, someone needs to teach me how to properly plant those 3 sisters." Aote looked between them, confused, but hopeful. "What are the 3 sisters?" "Corn, beans, and squash," Naeli explained, taking his hand. "They grow together. Each one helps the others survive. Alone they struggle. Together they thrive." "Like family," Aote said. "Like family." The paperwork took 2 days. Ellis was thorough, documenting everything, ensuring that Aote's release was legal and permanent. She also wrote a detailed account of his time at the reservation, his progress in school, his character. "So no one can claim later that he was taken improperly," she explained. During those 2 days, Benjamin watched Naeli and Aote reconnect. They spoke in rapid Comanche, switching to English only when addressing him. Aote showed his sister everything he'd learned, reading, writing, mathematics. Naeli taught him the songs and stories he'd started to forget. They talked about their father, their mother, the village that no longer existed, except in memory. On the second evening, Aote sought out Benjamin, found him sitting outside the guest quarters Ellis had provided, watching the sunset. "Mr. Hayes." "Just Benjamin is fine." Aote sat down beside him. "My sister told me what you did, how you bought her freedom, how you protected her from soldiers, how you fought Captain Blackwood. I did what anyone should have done. But most people did not. Most people looked away." Aote was quiet for a moment. "She also told me that you were at Red River, that you were part of the raid that killed our father." Benjamin's chest tightened. "Yes, I was there. I'm sorry doesn't begin to cover it, but I'm sorry anyway." "I remember my father," Aote said softly. "He was strong, brave. He taught me to ride to hunt, to be honest, even when honesty was hard." The boy looked at Benjamin. "If he were here, I think he would say that a man who admits his mistakes and tries to fix them is stronger than a man who makes no mistakes at all." "You think so?" "I know so, because that is what he taught me." Aote touched the medicine bag around his neck. "This belonged to my mother. After she died, my father told me to keep it close. He said it would protect me not with magic, but by reminding me of who I am, where I come from, who loved me. You've kept it safe all this time. It kept me safe when I was scared or lonely or wanted to forget everything. I would touch it and remember my mother's laugh, my father's strength, my sister's promise that she would find me." Aote looked up at the stars beginning to appear. "Now I have new things to remember. Your kindness, your courage, the way you and my sister fight together, the way you chose mercy even when vengeance would have been easier." Benjamin didn't know what to say. This child, this boy who'd survived so much, was offering him forgiveness he didn't deserve, grace he hadn't earned. "Thank you," he managed finally. "Do not thank me, just keep teaching my sister to smile. She has forgotten how, but when she talks about you, about Scout, about the journey, I see it starting to come back." The next morning they prepared to leave. Ellis provided supplies and fresh horses. The Quaker community gathered to see Aote off. Several children cried he'd been popular, a natural leader. The teachers gave him books to take with him. Ellis handed him a letter. "Your records," she explained. "Everything documenting your time here, your education, your character. Keep it safe. If anyone questions your freedom, this proves it." Aote took the letter carefully. "Thank you for being kind, for teaching me, for not being like the soldiers who brought me here. That's our calling," Ellis said simply, "to show that another way is possible, that peace can be stronger than violence." She looked at Benjamin and Naeli. "Take care of him. and let him take care of you. Family works both ways." They rode away from Fort Sill with the sun at their backs. Aote sat his horse well. He'd learned to ride English style here, but the natural Comanche skill was still there. Benjamin watched the boy look back once at the only home he'd known for 3 years, then turn forward and not look back again. "Are you sad to leave?" Nayeli asked her brother. "I am sad to leave some things, my friends, the teachers who were kind, but I am happy to leave the fence, the guards, the feeling of being owned." Aote touched his medicine bag. "I am ready to be free, really free." They traveled east, retracing the route Benjamin and Nayeli had taken weeks before. But this time was different. This time there was laughter. Aote peppered them with questions about everything, the land, the animals, the plants. Benjamin taught him to identify trees by their bark. Nayeli showed him which plants were good for medicine, which for food. At night, around their small campfires, Aote told them about reservation life. Some of it was surprisingly good. The Quakers had been genuinely kind, the education valuable. But there was also loneliness, grief, the constant pressure to forget who he'd been and become someone new. "They meant well," Aote said one evening, "but they did not understand that you cannot make someone forget their mother by teaching them English. You cannot replace a father by giving them new names." He looked at Nayeli. "I never forgot, not for one day." "Neither did I," Nayeli replied softly. "Every day I searched, I would talk to you in my mind, tell you where I was, what I saw, promise you I was coming. I heard you, not really, but I felt it. Like you said, we promised nothing would separate us. Some promises are stronger than walls." When they passed the burned ruins of the Fletcher homestead, Benjamin told Aote about Scout, about the old dog's courage, his sacrifice. Aote was quiet for a long time after. "I would have liked to meet him," he said finally. "He would have loved you," Nellie said. "He loved everyone, but especially children." They marked Scout's grave with fresh stones, and Aote added one of his own, a smooth river rock he'd carried from Fort Sill. "For the dog who saved my sister," he said. 2 weeks after leaving Fort Sill, they crested the final hill and saw Benjamin's ranch spread out below. The cabin looked small and lonely. The garden was still overgrown. The barn still leaned east, but the sun was setting behind it, painting everything gold, and for the first time in years, Benjamin thought it looked like home. "This is it?" Aote asked. "This is it. Like I said, not much." "It is perfect," Aote said, "because it is ours." They rode down together, dismounted in the yard where months ago Benjamin had stood alone and broken. Now he stood with a family he'd never expected to have. Nayeli looked at the dead garden. "Tomorrow we start planting." "It's too late in the season," Benjamin said. "Then we plant for next year. We prepare the soil. We plan." She looked at him, then at her brother. "We build something that will last." Over the next weeks they worked. Benjamin and Aote repaired the cabin, replacing boards damaged by time and neglect. Nayeli cleared the garden, turning the soil, marking out rows. They argued about everything, how to build, where to plant, who would sleep where. But the arguments were good-natured, the kind families have when they're learning to live together. Aote took Sarah's room. Nayeli insisted he have it. He was the child, he needed the space. She would sleep in the main room by the fire. Benjamin tried to object, but Nayeli cut him off. "You have given us everything, a home safety family. I can sleep anywhere, but Aote needs a room that is his where he can be a child again." So Aote got Sarah's room. He kept it neat, almost military in its precision, a habit from the reservation. But he also added touches of his own, drawings of horses, a bow he and Benjamin made together. The medicine bag hung on a peg by the window where morning sun would hit it. A month after their return, Benjamin woke to find both Nayeli and Aote standing in the yard staring at the sky. He joined them, following their gaze upward. A meteor shower was streaking across the darkness. Dozens of shooting stars, maybe hundreds. My people call these the tears of the sky, Nayeli said softly. They fall when the spirits are sad. Why would they be sad? Ayote asked. Because they see what we have lost. All the people who are gone, all the villages that will never be rebuilt, all the stories that died with the storytellers. They stood in silence, watching the stars fall. Then Ayote spoke. I think they are not tears. I think they are my father's arrows. He is hunting in the sky, protecting us, making sure we are safe. Maybe they are both, Benjamin said. Tears and arrows, grief and protection, the past and the future all mixed together. Nayeli looked at him, then at her brother. I think you are both right. The spirits mourn what we lost, but they also celebrate what we saved. They cry for the dead and laugh for the living. Like Scout, Ayote said suddenly. He is up there now, watching over us. Yes, Nayeli agreed. Like Scout. They watched until the meteor shower faded. Then Ayote yawned hugely, and Nayeli sent him to bed. After he left, she and Benjamin stayed outside. He is happy, Nayeli said. Really happy. I was afraid that 3 years would have broken something in him that could not be fixed. But he is still Ayote, still my brother. He's stronger than you think, stronger than any of us. He learned that from you, from watching how you chose mercy over vengeance, how you saved the man who destroyed our lives. Benjamin shook his head. I just did what felt right in the moment, didn't even think about it. That is what makes it powerful. You did not choose mercy because you thought about it. You chose it because that is who you are becoming. Who I'm trying to become, Benjamin corrected. Not there yet. None of us are, but we are walking toward it. Together. Winter came early that year. They spent it preparing for spring, planning the garden, telling stories by the fire. Ayote learned to read better, taught by Benjamin, using Sarah's old books. Nayeli learned to cook American food, though she insisted on mixing in Comanche recipes that made Benjamin's eyes water and his stomach sing. On Christmas, Benjamin gave Ayote a horse of his own, a young gelding, gentle but strong. Ayote named it Nokona after his father, gave it the medicine bag to wear during training, said it would pass on his father's strength. Nayeli gave Benjamin a shirt she'd sewn, decorated with blue beading that matched Ayote's medicine bag. So everyone knows you are family, she explained. Benjamin gave Nayeli a journal, blank pages waiting to be filled. For your stories, he said, the ones you carry, the ones you'll tell Ayote's children someday. They should be written down, remembered. She took it with her hands that trembled slightly. I cannot write as well as you. Then write in Comanche, or draw, or just make marks. That means something to you. The point isn't perfection, it's preservation. That night, she started writing. Benjamin saw her sometimes late at night, bent over the journal by firelight. He never asked what she was writing, that was hers. Spring came. They planted the 3 sisters together, along with vegetables Benjamin knew and plants Nayeli remembered from her childhood. The garden was a strange mix of cultures, a blending of traditions, but it worked. The corn grew tall, the beans climbed, the squash spread. One morning they woke to find a family of Comanche had camped at the edge of their property, refugees from another destroyed village heading west, hoping to find land where soldiers wouldn't follow. Nayeli fed them, gave them supplies, asked about news from other survivors. The family told stories, some hopeful, many tragic. The Comanche were scattered, broken, trying to survive in a world that didn't want them to exist. Before they left, the eldest woman spoke to Nayeli. You have found something rare, daughter, a place of peace, a white man who sees you as human. Keep it, protect it. It will not last forever, but while it does, it is precious. I know, Nayeli said, and the boy, he is happy. Then you have won. In all the ways that matter, you have won. They watched the family leave. Nayeli was quiet for the rest of the day. That evening she spoke to Benjamin and Ayote around the fire. "We are the lucky ones," she said. "We found each other. We have a home. We have enough to eat. But out there," she gestured toward the darkness, "out there are hundreds of people like us, searching, starving, dying." "What are you saying?" Benjamin asked. "I am saying we cannot keep this just for ourselves. We cannot be safe while others suffer." "You want to help them," Aote said. It wasn't a question. "I want to try. I want this place to be more than just our home. I want it to be a way station, a stopping point for people who need food, rest, hope, like the Fletchers did for us." Benjamin thought about this, about what it would mean: risk, danger, constant struggle. But he also thought about Sarah, about what she would say, about how she'd always believed that safety meant nothing if it was only for yourself. "All right," he said, "we'll do it. We'll be a safe house, a place where people can rest between horrors." "It will be dangerous," Nayeli warned. "The army will not like it. Blackwood's friends, if he has any left, will see it as treason." "Let them try," Aote said fiercely. "We will fight, like Benjamin fought for us." Benjamin looked at this boy, this child who'd been through hell and came out wanting to help others, looked at his sister who'd survived 2 years of searching and chose compassion over bitterness, looked at the home they'd built together from ashes and pain and $1 silver. "We will fight," Benjamin agreed, "but we'll fight the right way, not with just bullets, with food and shelter and proving that another way is possible. We'll show that Comanche and white can live together, that mercy is stronger than hate, that one small ranch can stand against the whole weight of injustice." "That is a lot to put on 20 acres, Nayeli said, but she was smiling. "Then we'll need more acres, more hands, more hearts." Benjamin stood, looked at both of them. "We'll build something bigger than us, something that lasts, something that Scout and Sarah and your father would be proud of." They stood together in the firelight, 3 people who shouldn't have been family but were, 3 survivors who'd found each other through violence and chose to build with peace. 3 souls who'd learned that the price of freedom wasn't paid once with $1 silver or a battle or a sacrifice. It was paid every day in every choice to be better than you were, to help when you could, to fight for what mattered even when the fight seemed impossible. The garden grew around them. The 3 sisters reached toward the sky, supporting each other the way they'd been grown for centuries. And in that small corner of Texas on 20 acres that had known loneliness and grief, something new was taking root. Not perfect, not safe, but real, alive, unbreakable in the way that only the human spirit can be. Benjamin had bought a woman for $1 thinking to save her. Instead, she'd saved him. They'd saved each other. And now, together with Ayotte, they would save as many as they could, because that's what family does. That's what humanity demands. That's what $1 silver bought, when spent not for ownership, but for freedom. $1 that changed 3 lives and would change hundreds more before the story was done.